And the question for Vijay, the wealthy countries, US, Germany, Australia, and the UK have done a great job of raising the cost of energy, cost of fuel, cost of electricity. What is the impact on India to come out of your poverty status facing increasing cost of energy?
When it comes to how developing countries, especially poor countries, can reduce the energy prices, it all depends on how tough they are. And this has been shown by a couple of countries like India and China. So in my opinion, I call it a twin strategy, where they play along the books when it comes to climate politics in international conferences, but back in their home country, they commit to increase fossil fuel production. And India, for instance, will register the highest percentage rise in coal consumption for the year 2023, ahead of China and the Europe in whole. So they are removing a lot of red tape surrounding fossil fuel production, and they do it at a high cost. They have immense criticism in the public, in the mainstream media in the Western Hemisphere. But I think a lot of developing countries are not as strong as India, China, and a few others. And they can take an example out of what India and China are doing, purely in terms of energy production. And I'm not talking about the political policies in China. So my opinion is that they have to continue to increase fossil fuel production, and they have to find a way around it. The question is, how are African countries going to do that? Because they don't have the investment now, as the African Development Bank and the World Bank have cut off funding for new coal projects and soon oil projects. So we have to see how they overcome that.
Climate change is a lot of lunacy that the West is promoting. Do you see India, or would you advocate for a more tougher stance, not just do it sheepishly or timidly, but say, this is just a better way. We know how to do the environmental protection. We don't want to fall for the Western lunacy on the climate change. Comments, please.
It would be great to have an Indian chapter of Heartland, and I suppose that can be an eventuality in the coming months and years. So getting to your question, I think India does have a very stronger stance on this. And if you look at India's commitment to Paris Agreement, it's very clear that the country cannot be forced to prioritize international climate goals ahead of its own domestic energy needs. So this is something that the journalists and the mainstream media in the West refuses to showcase in the West. So people are not aware of that. Both India and China have made it clear, not at the cost of their own domestic energy needs. And they followed this up by increasing. In fact, China's coal consumption has increased ever since the Paris Agreement, 2016, and so has India's. And some of the remarks made by the Indian Prime Minister, the economic advisor to the Indian Prime Minister, even the Minister of Climate and Environment, these quotes never reach the media and the people in the West. But there have been very sharp remarks regarding the Paris Climate Agreement and the green policies that are being enforced upon India. So just to give you one quote, the Indian Prime Minister in 2021 said that the Western countries attained the current state of wealth by using resources, and now there's an attempt made to stop the developing countries from attaining the same. And the chief economic advisor, the former chief economic advisor to the Indian Prime Minister, made his remark saying that we need a clean coal coalition, a coal coalition that uses cleaner coal burning technology, mirroring the international renewable energy coalition. And he said that coal should remain as the primary energy source of India. And India, in its planning commission reports, has said that coal will be its primary energy source for the decades to come. Minimum until 2050, the coal is going to remain the primary energy source. So there's a slight disconnect disconnect in the coverage of what the country is actually standing for. And I believe they are very smart about it. They just don't want to put it across in the international media and draw criticism. But they are facing a tough challenge. As I showed, plenty of people still without electricity. And all the electricity data that I showed about it talks about just 4 hours of electricity per day. So that is counted as electricity access. And India has universal electricity access now, which means every village is connected to the grid. Doesn't mean every house is connected. So yeah, they are doing a lot behind the scenes and things that the Western media does not reveal to the public here. So those are some things that I want to bring out more through my book, and also through increased communication through publications, which I've been doing for the past 5 years. So yeah, and I'm really interested in the idea that you brought up of having an Indian chapter to focus on the energy scene in the developing parts of our world.